Earlier this year, I stumbled upon this image. It depicts several categories of starter Pokemon that are represented by 2 types, but not the third. For example, a dragon type Mega Evolution. Grass has Mega Sceptile, Fire has Mega Charizard X, and Water has nothing. At least it did when this image was created. Now we have Mega Feraligatr. In this video, I am going to fill all of those starter Pokemon gaps with new creations of my own. These are my missing starter Pokemon. The first category is Ghost types. Grass has Decidueye, and Fire has both Skeledirge and Hisuian Typhlosion. But Water has nothing. Thus, a Water Ghost type is the first missing starter Pokemon. Because the secondary type categories really only apply to final forms, I saw an opportunity here to create a new regional variant for a water type starter. But which one? I can technically do whatever I want, but I'd rather give it to a starter where it would make sense for them to get one. Blastoise, Feraligatr, Swampert, Samurott, and Greninja are out because they all have alternate forms already. Inteleon and Quaquaval don't, but they feel too recent. Therefore, my best options are Empoleon and Primarina. To me, Primarina is a clear, great option here. It's a beautiful singer. So what if instead it just screamed? It's such a brilliant idea that people have actually already come up with it already. Reddit user WTFLex posted their Water Ghost Primarina design to my subreddit a few months ago. These Primarina have lost their singing voices, left only with a screech. Hoops and Hip Hop designed this Ghost Primarina inspired by a Banshee, with the art done by R. Greywind. And artist Lampette designed these variations of the entire line, where the Primarina sings an eerie song to lure in prey. I really like all these, which means that I failed to see a way to make my own design that would stand out on its own from these others while still being as cool as them. And thus my only option left is Empoleon. And I actually ended up with an idea that I really like and think is pretty unique. It's based on the fact that Empoleon is a monarch. And what fate befalls a monarch that rules for life? Well, they either die or they are deposed. This is my sketch of a water ghost Empoleon, which my lovely artist Elly turned into this. There are many aspects of this design that are intended to reference a deposed ruler. First off, the ghost typing. Usually if a king is usurped, they don't tend to survive. I even considered having its head float above the body after an encounter with a guillotine. But that felt a bit too dark. So instead, this Empoleon survived its deposition and thus is a solitary wanderer. Its trident crown is broken and jagged. Compared to regular Empoleon, its coloration is paler and body thinner. The pattern on its belly is a reference to the ribs being visible on a starving creature. Gone are the fancy tassels and prim, straight-edge feathers. Its new feathers are rough, its tassels in tatters. The clean collar has been replaced by a messy scarf, glowing with the energy of vengeance. That glow is orange, as a nod to the orange coloration near Emperor Penguin's heads. Before I move on to the next one, there's something I want to address, because if I don't, I know I'll get comments about it, and that is that I do not consider Fire Fairy to be a missing starter. While we do have Mega Meganium and Primarina, and thus no Fire Fairy type, unlike regional variants, Mega Meganium is not a permanent form. And in my personal opinion, that's a deal breaker unless we're looking at fairy type megas, for example. So therefore, we only have the Water Fairy Primarina, and I need 2 types represented for there to be a missing third. Speaking of types though, the next one has nothing to do with them. This category is Crocodilians. Fire has the Fuecoco line, and Water has the Totodile line, but Grass has nothing. Thus, this missing starter is the Grass Crocodilian. For all of these, I want to ensure my starters are unique and stand out. But for Crocodilians, this is gonna be a bit tricky. While other kinds of animals have a lot of variance, just think of how different dogs can look, there are only 4 types of Crocodilians, and 3 of them, alligators, crocodiles, and caimans, look mostly the same. This is evidenced by Totodile turning into Feraligatr, and no one batting an eye. But the 4th kind looks very different. Gharials. These crocodilians live in the northern parts of the Indian subcontinent and have distinct snouts, super narrow and super long. This prevents them from catching larger prey, so most gharials eat primarily fish. Additionally, adult males have a bulbous protrusion at the tip of their snout, which is actually what inspired the name gharial. It represents a type of pot called a gara. Not really sure I see the comparison, but here we are. To stand out from the crowded croc crew, I decided to make my grass starters gharials. Now I should note that Crocodile could be partially gharial inspired because of its long snout, so mine may not be the first gharial Pokemon, but they're gonna lean a lot more heavily into the narrow snout piece of their anatomy. This is my sketch of the base form, which Elly turned into this. Its name is Lumbite, from lumber and bite. Gharial snouts reminded me of long, skinny branches, so Lumbites is actually entirely wood, and therefore, there's no teeth. At least, not in the wood part. You can see that it has some in its mouth, but the snout is flat inside, like a log cut long ways. So whenever it bites, it makes a loud clap sound like a slapstick.
So whenever it bites, it kind of sounds like this. But like deeper, because it's thicker.
Because it cannot bite into flesh, Lumbite eats small prey they can squish. That also won't be scared off by the racket it makes when attacking.
In short, it mostly just eats little bugs.
Since wood is and will continue to be a large aspect of this line's design, I added a wooden armor plate on its back, a way of representing tough reptilian scales. Now, unfortunately, I cannot show you the middle stage of this line, or any others in this video. This art takes quite a long time to make, and so to make sure we could get this video out on time, I chose to prioritize just the base and final forms, which are the most important ones anyways. Instead, I encourage you to make your own designs for the middle stages of my starter lines in this video, and post art of them, or any of my starters, or really whatever you want, to my subreddit, r/MandJTV, for a chance to appear in the next Pokemon meme review over on my extra channel. But for now, let me show you Lumbite's final form. This is my sketch of it, which Elly turned into this. Its name is Gharielm, from Gharial and Elm. The most prominent feature is again its snout, now growing tough root horns over its face. The large citrus berry at the tip represents the Gara protrusion, and it is a real berry that regrows if eaten, and also serves as the focal point for any special attacks like Solar Beam. However, Gharielm never eats the berry itself. It's a carnivore. Instead, it lies in wait, perfectly still, until unsuspecting prey decides to eat the treat. Once close enough, Gharial ambushes them and tears them apart using the wooden teeth that grow from its tree-like snout. Like Lumbite, it has wooden plate armor on its back, these ones segmented to better represent the rectangular scales on a Gharial. It also has sharp wooden spikes on its tail, which can be another combat option, again inspired by similar spikes on a Gharial. I'm not gonna get into the nitty-gritty of the stat spreads for these Pokemon, but I do think generally Gharielm would be a physical attacker. It's got a big jaw and a big tail. If it had to have a secondary typing, Dark probably makes the most sense due to its ambush tactics, but I actually think just pure grass suits it best. And because it's a reptile, maybe it follows Sceptile and Feraligator's examples and just gains Dragon if it goes Mega. Next, we have another reptile category, turtles. Grass has the Turtwig line, and water has the Squirtle line. But there is no fire turtle. Well, that's not quite right. There's no fire turtle starter, but there are two fire turtle Pokemon, Torkoal and Turtonator. I want to do something unique, but how the heck am I gonna do that when there's two other fire turtle Pokemon out there, and like crocodilians, there isn't a massive variety of dramatically different turtles? But then I started thinking, what if instead of finding an obscure turtle species, I can make mine stand out by defying what turtles are known for? Being slow. We've all heard the story of the tortoise and the hare. Slow and steady wins the race. And turtle Pokemon reflect that. The absolute fastest one is Terapagos with base 85 speed, but is more like a crystal spaceship than a turtle. It was called the Indigo Disc, not the Indigo Turtle. The more normal turtle Pokemon are all slower than that. Blastoise is base 78, Dreadnought 74, and Torterra 56. And then there's a steep drop to Turtonator with 36, Caracosta with 32, and Torkoal with just 20. I want to make a turtle Pokemon that would just outright beat the hair. And what's something fast that's associated with fire? Rockets. This is my sketch of the base form, which Elly turned into this. Its name is Krator, crater and tortoise. Clearly this is not a rocket. We'll get there. Instead, it's a bomb! If Krator withdraws into its shell, it can roll around quite effectively because it's spherical. So it's actually decently fast. Its tail is a bomb fuse, and if it lets the spark reach the shell, it blows up like a Voltorb. So yes, it's another explosive turtle like Turtonator, but they are very different. Turtonator is a landmine, while Krator is a Mario Kart item. So we skip over the middle evolution, again, feel free to design your own, and reach the final form. This is my sketch, and this is Elly's final art. Its name is Tortuga, from tortoise and bazooka. And also it almost rhymes with Tortuga, the Spanish name for turtle. If it was real, it would be the first non-legendary fire-steel type, because it is simply a turtle whose shell is the head of a bazooka rocket. And also, that would be very cool. Fire steel, cool type, give me more. The metal plating is hexagonal like turtle shell segments, and while it may appear slow, it has an impressive combat technique. When it withdraws back into its shell, it looks like this. And to attack, it propels itself with fire from its rear and keeps itself afloat with boosters from its leg holes. Then it rockets forward and slams into the opponent with the force of, well, a rocket. And can explode if necessary, but doesn't have to. Because of this technique, I'd put its base speed at one of, if not the, fastest among all non-mega starters. Also, it'd definitely be a physical attacker, like it's rocketing into you with its body. The Iron Heads and Flare Blitzes are gonna hurt. Next, we have another animal category, monkeys. Grass has the Grookey line, and fire has the Chimchar line. But water has nothing. And thus this missing starter is a water monkey. Panpour and Simipour do exist, but those are false starters. My first idea was to combine an actual monkey with a sea monkey, a marketing term for brine shrimp. I could not make that work. They are just wildly different animals. Like, I was worried I'd just create a monstrosity straight out of Spy Kids 2, but worse, like, just with a bunch of little bug arms, ugh. So I was looking through different kinds of monkeys to see if any sparked an idea, and I kept seeing the same divide come up. Old World versus New World monkeys. All monkeys, not apes, close but different thing, fall into one of these two categories. There are several minor differences, but two major ones. First, as the names suggest, are their locations. Old World monkeys are found only in the Old World, almost exclusively Asia and Africa. Fun fact though, there is one species in Europe, the Barbary macaque on Gibraltar. Meanwhile, New World monkeys live in the New World, Central and South America. But that's just the first major difference. The second is their tails. New World monkeys have prehensile tails, which can grasp things like objects or branches. Old World monkeys do not have this ability. I really ended up focusing on this distinction because I think prehensile tails are really cool. Of course, I should mention Apom. It is the prehensile tail monkey Pokemon. But then I realized there was another really cool way to represent that fascinating anatomical feature in Pokemon. A prehensile tail made of water. This is my sketch of Chapachin, which Elly turned into this. Its name comes from Chap, meaning child, and Capuchin, a New World monkey that specifically inspired this Pokemon. Hence the white head fur and pink face. Its belly is a water droplet, and its goofy expression, which really makes me smile, is a nod to Anya from Spy Family. She doesn't have anything to do with monkeys or water. I just wanted Chapachin to look like a cute little idiot, like she does, and it worked. I love him. Chapachin's tail is completely made of water and functions exactly like a real monkey's prehensile tail. Meaning it can't do like anything crazy. There's a fixed volume, so it can't just like swell into something enormous. And like it can like absorb something inside of it, which normal tails can't do. But other than that, it's a tail. In fact, it can actually lose the tail in battle, either by having it knocked free or by using it to launch an attack. If that happens, a Chapachin can replace it by taking water from a nearby source or generating its own, but the latter takes more time. But by the time Chapachin fully evolves, its tail has gotten much stronger. This is my sketch of the final form, which Elly turned into this art of New World, combining New World with Whirlpool. As is obvious, the water tail has grown incredibly powerful, now a whirlpool/water spout as big as the Pokemon itself. But that tail isn't just for brutal aqua tails. Notice how it's kinda shaped like a megaphone? That's because New World is a howler monkey, another type of New World monkey. As you might infer from the name, they are noisy. New World takes this even further, using its whirlpool tail as a megaphone to project its howls from both its mouth and its tail. This lets it use its screams to attack, much like an Exploud would. The white mohawk is a nod to two things: Chapachin's white head fur and punk rocker mohawks, like what Toxtricity has. The patterns on its forearms and legs also reference its sound powers. They're wave forms. You get it? Now, did I create a second sound-focused monkey starter when Rillaboom already exists? Yes. But they are quite distinct. Rillaboom is a talented musician. New World is just screaming. New World would be a mixed attacker, since logically, it should be good at using both Aqua Tail and Hyper Voice. If a sound type existed, then it's obviously a water sound type, but since it doesn't, water normal could work instead. Normal often serves as a replacement for the non-existent sound type. Think Exploud, Audino, Chatot, Meloetta, etc., and how most moves the ability soundproof blocks are normal type. This would also give New World Stab, Hyper Voice, and Boom Burst. The next category is the most specific so far. It's both a type and an animal. Dark Cats. Grass has Meowscarada, and fire has Incineroar. But water doesn't have any cat starters, much less a dark type one. So this missing starter is a water dark cat. Let's start with the base form. It doesn't need to be a dark type yet, it really just needs to be an aquatic cat. An aquat. Hey, wait a minute. When I was a kid, I made this book of fake Pokemon, one to replace each of the original 151. And when I was designing two of the three starters, I tried to defy expectations, like you've already seen me do in this video. That's why the fire starter was a penguin, made before Piplup, I might add, and the water starter was a cat named Aquat, since cats stereotypically hate water. My new water cat will be an updated version of my old one. This is my sketch of an updated Aquat, which Elly turned into this. Clearly it's a blue water cat, but there are some sneaky design pieces you might miss with just a glance. First, its spots and stripes are based on the Bengal breed of cat, one of the only house cats with a reputation for liking water. The spots are simplified to be circular to resemble bubbles. Aquat also references snorkeling, with its flipper-like feet and goggle fur pattern. Finally, its whisker fins are shaped like those of a clownfish. So how do we take this cute little guy and turn him into a dark type? Well, I'll tell you step number one, not making him a person. Meowscarada and Incineroar are some of the most human-like starters ever made. They're basically wearing clothes. That's not inherently a bad thing, it's just with two bipedal, human-like cat starters, mine's just gonna stay on four legs and be a cat. Aquat's original final evolution was Tidin, which is just an aquatic lion. I wanted something a bit more inspired for this new evolution, so I looked up big cats that like water. The most prominent example is the jaguar, which has spots like the Bengal cat. Additionally, jaguars are one of the two types of cats that can become black panthers. the other being leopards. Black panthers are not a new species, just jaguars or leopards with a rare fur pattern. This would serve as excellent camouflage for nighttime ambush hunting, so with that in mind, this is what I sketched, and Elly turned it into this. Its name is Jaguar. Jaguar with aqua in the middle. Clearly it's a black panther, and you can see its spots because on real black panthers, the spots are actually visible. The fins on its cheeks and tail tip are shaped like the fins of, get this, tiger sharks. I know it's not the right big cat, but jaguar cat sharks are just simply less impressive. The snorkeling parts of Aquat's design appear again, like the goggles and flipper feet, but the concept has been amplified to scuba. Jaguar has two ways of breathing underwater. The first are the snorkeling breathing tubes that are part of its head and feed directly into its nose. The other way is the air tanks on its back that connect directly to its lungs. The tanks have two other purposes though. They can control buoyancy like a swim bladder, but they also can provide propulsion, since Jaguar can jet air out from the rears of the tanks. Jaguar is a dark type because of its ambush hunting style. In the dead of night, it submerges itself near the river shore, with only its breathing tubes sticking out from the surface. When prey gets too close, it bursts out and drags them into the deep. I don't know about you, but I like Jaguar quite a bit more than Titan. The final category is another type 1, ground. Grass has Torterra and water has Swampert, but fire has nothing. Thus the next missing starter is a fire ground type. However, I struggled to find a direction to go with this. I considered a regional variant like I'd done for Empoleon, but the available fire starters were Infernape and Incineroar, and I couldn't really see a path to making either a ground type, at least not one that I liked. So I landed on creating something new, but with just typing to go off of, I ended up with choice paralysis. But then I looked back at the original missing starter graphic, the one that inspired this video, and I realized something. It's missing a missing starter. There is one more category represented by two types, but not a third, that this image missed. And that category is frogs. Water has the Froakie line, and grass has the Bulbasaur line. Yes, while they do have Saur from dinosaur in their names, they are frogs. According to Ken Sugimori in a Japanese interview discussing the Pokemon franchise, Venusaur and its pre-evolutions were inspired by frogs. Also, just look how Venusaur hops in Let's Go. So we have water frogs and grass frogs, but no fire frogs. With this in mind, I had my path forward. I would cover two missing starters in one by making a fire ground frog. I knew going in that several species of frogs burrow, so I looked into those specifically. And during this process, I discovered what might be the coolest frog in existence: the Malagasy rainbow frog. This beautiful frog is mostly white or light gray, but on its back are vibrant patterns of black, orange, and yellow. Although the yellow can sometimes look more green and the orange can look red. It lives in the narrow canyons of Madagascar and, quoting from Wikipedia, digs into the sandy areas bordering the streams or spends its time in small holes or crevices in the rock walls. So it is a burrowing frog with fire-colored patterns on its back. This is perfect! Side note, I did get to inform PM7, Big Frog Guy, about this frog's existence, and he agreed that it is stunning. We begin with my sketch of the base form, which Elly turned into this. Its name is Sollywog, combining Sol, the name of the sun, with Pollywog, another term for tadpoles. I noticed that neither the Bulbasaur line nor the Froakie line had any tadpoles involved, and they're a major part of a frog's development. So I wanted to make that happen here. Although it is a tadpole with legs, all four of them. Normally they grow just the back ones first. Look, it's not aquatic, it has to have legs. The pattern on its back is shaped like the sun, and this is a super important part of its biology. Sollywog absorb solar energy through that pattern, and therefore get very sluggish at night. This pattern is also how they blast their attacks. It's the focal point of their power both in and out. Then this is my sketch for the final form, which Elly turned into this. Its name is Sunsquat, from, clearly, sun and squat. But squat works double time here with two definitions. First, the verb meaning to crouch close to the ground, as if to escape observation, and second, the adjective meaning low to the ground. Additionally, sun squat rhymes with sunspot. The sun pattern has grown more intricate and more powerful, capable of absorbing and storing far more energy. Like Sollywog, this pattern is how Sun Squat fires all of its attacks. Therefore, much like Turtonator or Megaceptile, it always positions itself with its back toward the enemy. It is most pleased when it's left alone to sunbathe, so to ensure it is not disturbed, it burrows itself into the ground, leaving only the pattern exposed. It digs using the armored plates and spikes on the back of each leg. Those are there because the Malagasy rainbow frog has horny tubercles on the underside of the hind feet to help with burrowing. So Sun Squat burrows down, covers all but the pattern, then relaxes and absorbs solar energy all day. To round out the sun theme, the spots on its legs are a reference to sunspots, cooler parts of the sun's surface. Cooler is relative, they're still stupid hot. Because its legs are the first things underground, it made sense for the cooler sunspot patterns to appear there. Sun Squat would be a slow, bulky, special attacker. Its ideal battle is that it shrugs off a hit and then just blasts everything in the vicinity with an overheat from its back. And thus, we now have all my missing starters. Let me know your favorite in the comments below, and again, I'd love to see your fan art of all of them or their middle stages. Thanks so much for watching, and if you want to see another video of mine where I designed some new Pokemon, check out every original Pokemon Game Freak still forgot. A video where I designed some new evolutions or regional forms or megas for Pokemon who haven't gotten any of those things.